Welcome to the Anime Reviews. I'm Matt.
I'm Zach.
Today we're talking about Kemono Jihen. It's a show by Geodo Animation Works. It's directed by Masaya Fujimori. It's written by Noboru Kimura. And the episode was titled Kabane.
This show, to be honest, when we were, because this was part of the hype list we had, and when we were looking through it, I actually overlooked this show, and it was on his, because it talks about like the fact that an investigator comes to look over deceased corpses, and there's supernatural elements to the show, and I'm like, personally, I almost missed this. But this show is actually surprisingly good. It was surprisingly enjoyable, I must say. Straight up, had we not had this on the docket for review, I probably would have skipped this on my own time. I may have eventually gone to watch it, but it was something that, its immediate thing didn't catch me, but I'm glad I caught this first episode.
I'm glad that everything I speculated it would be was what's up. It totally was went somewhere really interesting because it didn't really do I'm just all the most descriptions you hear of shows are never so accurate or they reveal way too much. And the way I'll describe it if I was writing it is for the Zombie Man from One Punch Man's origin story.
Yeah,
that's really how I'll describe this show. With it was really good, and you just felt and you start off, you're introduced to these five little bratty kids. Four
bratty kids.
You're introduced to four bratty kids, and then they're talking to each other about wanting to go to Tokyo.
And then sort of the leader, if you will, of that group of friends is his name is Yatoro, and he's the only one we actually learn the name of because they keep calling him Yachan, and his name is mentioned later. The other three are just sort of there.
Yeah, they're just friends.
And they're talking about the fact that this guy from Tokyo is coming and staying at the inn, and that must be so cool, and can we come see him, blah blah, blah and stuff like that. And it's so
well, and they talk about wanting to go to Tokyo, and then they make fun of the actual one of the main characters of the show,
the other main character,
which is Doratabo, who is literally a dirty kid working on a farm. He just looked really
he works in the field.
Yeah, he's just working on the field. And he's you can tell he's just diligently doing his thing, and the kids are making fun of him, and he's just believing every word of what they're saying. It's that really sad story of seeing that little kid getting bullied and stuff, and just eating it all.
Yeah. And not just eating it all, believing it true.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just because you see it on his face, they're like, oh, don't come, you stink up the place, you're smelling. And he's like, okay.
You must have been born, which I love how that's actually a foreshadowing line. You must have been born with that smell.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very good. And until you find out later, you don't read.
You find out you don't really put that together
until a little bit later to get the fantastic foreshadowing line. But he's sort of he doesn't have a reaction to that. And even his facial features are very blank. His eyes are blank. His face is just blank. Obviously there's detailed lines.
Well, that's what's so great is it actually has this look of where it's this kid who is not only sad, but he's just kind of accepted his fate of this nothingness.
Yeah, and I think it's so well animated right there. And the reason I'm calling it out is because when we're seeing the kids, we're seeing them up close, and we're seeing them smile, we're seeing their eyes move, we're seeing them light up, we're seeing a lot of facial feature movements.
Seeing life in them.
Yeah, we're seeing life in them, whereas in him, you see no life. There's nothing there. There's nothing behind his eyes. It's just there. But we also get briefly, right after that.
Because that scene in the farm is probably 2 minutes.
Yeah, probably, if that. But we get introduced to the other major main character, who is who's the detective from Tokyo, whose name is Kohachi Inugami. And what he does is he investigates sort of paranormal ongoings. That's his business. That's what they do. And we find out like the reason he's out in essentially the boonies is the fact that like livestock has been like showing up. Like it was live one day, and the next day it's like rotted, dead, with its guts taken out, and the person that hires him is like, oh, this can't be natural. There's no like what did you know. And she's saying she never told any of the kids about it. She had no idea what's going on. And he's staying at the inn, and they're sort of getting things set up. And he sees the little kids, and he does one of those like sort of just spook them just as a joke, and the kids run off giggling, and he's like he's playing the sort of friendly adult. And sorry, I guess playing's wrong. He's being a friendly adult, like he is a friendly person. But he sees Dorotabo working the fields, and tries to talk to him. But he doesn't. Dorotabo just sort of like Dorotabo acknowledges that he's there by like just nodding at him, but then goes right back to work and doesn't talk to him, doesn't say anything, it doesn't run away, doesn't like other than you said something to me, let me acknowledge your existence. Like has zero interest in this guy.
Well, it's so great what he does. He just he just responds to the guy saying hi to him, and it does show him focusing on a necklace that Dorotabo is wearing. But Dorotabo just turns, looks at him, bows politely, and goes back to work.
Yeah.
And then you could see he, like, the guy that catches an interest in the kid, you think just, okay, and he speaks very highly of him.
Well, he goes either, he must be shy or something, or a hard worker. Like, initially he doesn't take too much interest in him. It's sort of a vague interest. It's not until he's getting, because he goes to relax in a hot spring, and Yatoro offers to wash his back. And he happens to ask about Dorotabo because, like, the other kids were together, they were playing, but there's a fifth kid there. Like, what's he do? What's going on? And it's not until Yatoro explains the fact that he smells all the time that we call him Dorotabo because they call him Dorotabo. It's a nickname because he smells all the time, and it's the nickname of a yokai in the field or something. That's when he takes an interest in Dorotabo. Because he says, after he gets his back washed, he shakes his hair, which is another funny foreshadowing thing. Says sounds interesting. Goes and talks to the mother of the inn and says, I want Dorotabo seeing to my needs instead of Yatoro, which Yatoro overhears it and he gets angry about it, which does come into fruition later in the episode, and
then it just jumps to him taking another bath. But this time,
no,
he's eating. It jumps to him to eating dinner.
Or breakfast.
Breakfast.
And Dorotabo is the one delivering it and waiting on him, and he plays it off as there's ongoing I'm here as an investigator. Here's my card. You know this. It's very everyone was aware that he was kind of the talk of the town. The townsfolk people it sounds like they don't really know the specifics of what he's here to investigate. But Dorotabo happens to because he's like, things have been going on. I'm here as an investigator. What have you seen or heard? Especially you work out in the fields a lot. Maybe you've seen something. And he's like, you're. And Dorotabo immediately not immediately, but is initially sort of reserved. And why don't you eat breakfast first? No one wants to eat food with me. I smell. Blah blah blah. But it basically comes down to Dorotabo comes out and is you're talking about the rotting corpses. And Inugami's like, how do you know about that? The lady said she didn't tell anybody. And he's like, well, it's my responsibility to get rid of them. And he tells Inugami everything he saw, the fact that the guts were eaten out. It happens on a new moon. And Inugami's immediately like, that makes my life so much easier. When's the next new moon? Okay, 5 days from now, cool. And we get sort of a little bit of a montage of them, Dorotabo and Inugami, interacting with each other. And bonding, essentially. And a scene that pretty much really, there's two sort of scenes that stick out. One is Inugami's helping Dorotabo with, Dorotabo's, field work. And the mother sees it and is, freaks out about it. But Yatoro sees it and gets angry. Which, again, is leading up to what's happening later. And the other scene is one of the times that they're working in the montage is Inugami mentions, working the field is hard on the back, stuff like that. And Dorotabo is like, you're leaning too far. They're sort of just talking about the work. And Inugami wants to investigate the stone necklace that Dorotabo wears. Dorotabo's like, sure, you can take a look at it. And Inugami tells him it's a life stone. It has it's called this because it has material that's unique to it. And he basically tells Dorotabo that, like, no, you weren't abandoned. The lady that takes care of you here you were probably put into her care for a reason. Because Dorotabo, like, his entire life was told he was abandoned. No one told him anything about who his parents were or anything like that. And Inugami said, do you want to meet your parents? Like, I'm an investigator. I might be able to help with it. And Dorotabo was like, I don't know. Like, initially he's like, I don't know. And I think he says he'd like to meet them, but he's not sure.
Yeah, I think it's something along those lines. But there is a very important part of the montage where you see them walking through the forest because they're like looking at the deer or whatever, and then a pig like attacks them. And then all of a sudden it just like does a quick little cut of Dorotabo with a knife just cutting up in the pig's head, and Inugami just freaks out. Like, he has this freaked out look on his face. They don't like have any dialogue or stuff. It's just two little quick cuts.
Yeah.
But it's a very important part because you know there's more to this kid and how like just cold this kid is. And then it goes to a part where eventually it's night and he's Dorotabo is waiting for Inugami, and then his cousin shows up and picks a fight with him because he's like, I'm supposed to go, I want to go to Tokyo.
Yeah.
And then starts attacking him, and then like out of jealousy he's gonna take the necklace, and he says he's abandoned, like he's holding the necklace and saying he was abandoned. And then Dorotabo like stands up, says something, and stands up to him and says, I wasn't abandoned.
And sucker punches him.
Well, no, he doesn't sucker punch him yet, and that makes the cousin more mad.
Oh yeah.
That makes Yatoro really mad, and he takes the necklace away, and Dorotabo gets really mad and punches him in the face, and you think he's just gonna like beat him up or stand there huffing him up. Then it turns into like this happy monster ghoul thing.
Yeah, no, that's insane. That was great.
Yeah, and his cousin is freaking out, and then
and we find out that
shows up and saves.
No, what happens is he ends up like, it looks like he's gonna lunge at his cousin, but his cousin runs away and he ends up grabbing onto the life stone, and he reverts back to being human.
Yeah, he grabs it. His cousin runs away, and he just grabs the life stone off the ground because that's what he was more interested in.
Yeah, then it cuts to a scene with him and Inugami talking, and Dorotabo thinks he's the monster, that he's the one that was destroying things. And Inugami's like, oh, no, you're absolutely, like, yeah, I mean, you're a monster, that's true. You're what we call a kimono, but you are not whatever is doing this. That is something else. The life stone you have, so long as you keep it, you wear it, like, you can remain a person. And the reason Inugami knows about this stuff is Inugami is similar to Dorotabo.
Well, can you just explain that kimonos are half demons, they're basically half demons.
Well, actually, kimonos are the monsters that they make with humans to create the half-breeds. And the varying half-breeds have different names, and unfortunately, I really wish I had written them down, but I don't remember there too. But Inugami is also a half-breed. Like, he's got a little tail, and he can, like, create, like, a gun out of thin air.
Useful superpower.
I know!
Like, pistol.
Yeah. And when he explains to Dorotabo that he's not the monster, Dorotabo's like, Yatoro is out, Yatoro, right?
Yeah.
Yatoro is out there and has no idea about the attacks. And they catch up to him just as he's about to be attacked by, like, these zombie wolves? Which were created by zombie deer?
Yeah.
Like, and the deer looks so good. Like,
yeah. That was one of the images.
Yeah, it's one of our teaser images, and it's one of the teaser images, and it looks so creepy and so good.
Inugami's fighting the wolves, and Dorotabo just murks the wolf with a sword thing.
Axe.
An axe. Yeah, he murks it with an axe, and then the deer.
Inugami tells him that they're ghouls. You can't kill them naturally, but if you cut off their heads, they stop moving. And Dorotabo's like got it. Like, one of the wolves is like biting the axe, and he just goes snap, twist, yeah. And Inugami's like, oh, that works.
And then the deer attacks, and Inugami tries to shoot its head off, but he runs out of bullets. And then when he reloads and he's about to shoot it again, Dorotabo comes up and she just grabs the thing through its mouth, the deer thing, and just tears its head off.
Without a second thought. So amazing. It goes to the fact that he has no life in him. And he's unfazed by these things. And on the way back to the inn, we find out that Inugami was in fact actually hired to kill Dorotaro because
and my heart started to skip a little. Like,
yeah,
I was like, are you really gonna kill this little kid?
And we find out that the innkeeper, the lady, actually knew Dorotaro's situation way more than she let on.
Well, because she was his aunt or something like
She's
that.
her aunt. She's Dorotaro's aunt. It was her older sister's kid. And he's like, oh, well, just so you're aware, I was hired to kill you. And although, yes, it turns out it was something else that did it, like, Yataro's passed out, freaked out, like, she's never going to believe a thing I say. And he summons his gun. He asks him a very important question, and it relates to something he asked earlier. He goes, I have an intriguing or an enticing offer, I think is what he says. Something along those lines. Points the gun at him and said, do you want to meet your parents? And I love Dorotaro's response. Because he says no.
Yeah, no, kill me.
Yeah. And so Inugami shoots him in the head. And legit, I was like, what? What?
Yeah, I was like, wow, this show
has
giant
dark.
yowls. Giant yowls right there.
Yeah. And earlier in the show, they mentioned that his detective agency is known for their discretion. And he brings Yataro and Dorotaro's body back. He tells her that Yataro's fine. He's just unconscious. But he killed him on, he shows Dorotaro's dead body. And offers, I can get rid of this body for you. And it goes to a scene with him in his car, and he's talking on the phone, and Dorotaro wakes up and gets up and like, what? And he kind of
It's because he was a ghoul. That's why I describe it as One Punch Man's character, Zombie Man's backstory. Zombie Man was a little kid. I'm just equating that. I don't connect it to no connection to One Punch Man. It's just that kind of character. That's why I figured he wasn't dead. But it was still really cool that he murked that kid.
He still murked the kid. And I forgot to mention, in the scene where he kills the kid, he actually asks him what his name is.
Yeah, that's the most
What
important
is your real name? Kabane. And it back to the car though, like they're in Tokyo, and basically Inugami's taking him in, and that's sort of where this episode has ended.
Yeah. And there's two more kids in there.
Yeah, we do a quick scene of two other kids. That's right.
And they're like you can see in other videos that they're just like him. So he's kind of just picking up these kids, and that's what it seems like the detective agency probably does. Probably goes and investigates, and when it finds like a kid who's half demon like that.
I think that wraps it up for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And hit that bell icon for notifications. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Links in the description down below.